Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Flying with the Flock podcast, the best place to get all of your Eagles and NFL related news. I'm your host, Matt, and welcome to our inaugural episode. Uh, this is actually a dream of mine. I've been wanting to produce this, and now that I have some free time, I'm more than happy to update you guys on the world that is the NFL and the Eagles. As the season goes on, you're going to see weekly episodes from me, and you will uh, most episodes will be recorded on Monday nights and released hopefully midweek before Thursday night. So you'll get all my predictions for the weekend and for the future of the NFL before the weekend kicks off. Uh, First off, the Eagles play the Packers in Sao Paulo this Friday, and this is actually really exciting because the NFL is now expanding into different markets. Again, they for the past few years they have been in London, obviously, Germany recently. It was just announced this past off season that they're also going to Spain at some point, I believe next year. I'm not entirely sure. But the Eagles get to be the first team to bring Brazil into the NFL. Of course, in a stadium where it's not preferred if the team wears green, and you put the Green Bay Packers and the Philadelphia Eagles, the two most green teams, in there. But the NFL is not the brightest bunch when it comes to planning. But unfortunately, it seems as time goes on, the situation keeps looking worse and worse. Earlier in the offseason, uh, we had rumors that gang violence related to green banned the color green. Opposing teams had banned the color green, or the home team banned the color green in the stadium for all teams. But as it goes on, those small little things seem to not be as big as the current issue outside of Sao Paulo, which is the ongoing wildfires out there. Uh, it's completely ruining the air quality out there, making it more concerning to see whether the NFL will actually follow through. It seems like it. I doubt that the NFL would just stop a big out of market game like this just because of uh, the wildfire. Even though the air quality has been creating problems for the population down at Sao Paulo, um, the I I doubt that the NFL would send the Packers to Philadelphia week one. Rather, both teams are most likely going to go down to Sao Paulo. Whether that's better for the Eagles or not, uh, they did decide to just wear black and white. Realistically, they have the black helmets, which I'm actually really excited are back. I quite enjoyed the time that we had them back in 2022, I believe, is when we created them. So I remember, I believe it was at Jerry World, we wore them. We lost that game, I'm pretty sure, but it looked really sleek, the All Blacks. So I'm excited that that's going to be back and in the rotation with obviously the midnight green and the Kelly green helmets. Um, Obviously, black helmets. They're going to be wearing white jersey tops this week and black pants. So that's going to look really clean. And then you have the Packers who are wearing their classic green jersey tops and yellow pants. We're going to see who the crowd favors more. Obviously, I doubt that a lot of NFL fans are going to be making a huge trek down there. So you might see a lot more of out of market fans there. Unlike the Germany games, which you tend to see, and London games, which you tend to see a lot of American fans make a pilgrimage over to watch their teams in a foreign country. But yeah, I will get into my predictions later of what I think the game will be and who's going to win. Um, but yeah, looking at all of that, uh, we're going to get into my predictions for the year. I'm gonna go division by division, predicting wins and eventually I'll get to the awards that I believe will be handed out at the end of the year. Starting off with the AFC East. Now, this is a really interesting division right now to me. You have the Bills who have taken a sizable step back. They really gutted their entire defense. They're kind of rebuilding. I'm not entirely sure what to call that. It's more like a soft reboot, I guess. You also have the Dolphins, who lost their defensive coordinator in Vic Fangio, and Vic Fangio seemed to be on the outs with the team anyway, based off of what some of the players were saying at that time. Uh, Realistically, they only, similar to the Bills, they really only lost players. So that's just another interesting scenario to me where it didn't look like they got better, but they didn't totally get worse. And then you have the cursed franchise, the New Jersey Jets. Let's see. Uh, if Rodgers is able to just be half of what he was before the Achilles injury, like half of the back-to-back MVP years that he had, then I think the Jets will be in solid shape. They have a great defense, although Hassan Reddick is still holding out on them, which, as an Eagles fan, I find really funny that we kind of fleeced them there, but that's besides the point. But yeah, realistically, if the Jets can keep Rodgers healthy and Rodgers gets the ball to Garrett Wilson, Mike Williams, I believe, is coming after after 4 games. I think he might be activated. And just hand off the ball to Breece Hall. I feel like they will do very well. There are a lot of hard games on their schedule, so it's going to be tricky to see what it comes down to. And then we have the Patriots. The Patriots, although not my pick to finish last in the NFL, are going to be in the bottom three teams, unfortunately. And I really wanted Gerard Mayo to do good, and I think the coaching won't be the problem. It's just they're at a weird spot where they're not like overly young, but they're not overly old either. So I feel like it's good, in my opinion, that Drake May sits behind Jacoby Brissett for a couple of weeks, maybe get them through past the 49ers game, uh, and then maybe look to start May against the Jaguars, who will definitely be significantly easier compared to the 49ers. But I don't think that's a horrible decision to sit May for a couple weeks. So at the end of the day, I think the AFC East will go Jets 1 around like 12-5. The Again, I feel like if Rodgers stays healthy, they are probably the best team in the division at this moment. I have the Bills and uh, Dolphins tying around either 10-7 or 9-8. Again, both teams almost didn't get much better. They lost pieces in the offseason and they didn't really replace them at all. So the Bills, I feel like, are more likely to end third, but again, Josh Allen always finds a way to pull his teams out of the gutters. So I can't really say that I'm not confident enough to say that they're definitely going to end up third, but most likely it's going to be Jets, Dolphins, Bills, Patriots. Now moving on to the AFC North, we have the Ravens, Bengals, Browns, and Steelers. Oh, it's it's going to be interesting coming off a season where three of the teams went into the playoffs, and realistically, if Joe Burrow stayed healthy, then maybe all four could have went, but I wouldn't bank on that. So looking at the Ravens, they lost some pieces on the defensive side of the ball, but they added Derrick Henry. with Lamar Jackson, which is really scary to all the other NFL fan bases. But I don't know, man. The defense I feel like is similar to the Bills, though not as bad. Lost pieces like Patrick Queen, who went over to Steelers, but really on the defensive side of the ball, I feel like it's gonna be their downfall this season. You obviously have Kyle Hamilton, who's actually an amazing player, but I don't know. I just I feel like the team's gonna take a step back. Realistically, NFL defenses are going to readjust to Lamar Jackson, if you could say that, but he's gonna end up just handing the ball off to Derrick Henry, which is gonna be really good. And they lost some receivers as well. Like Lamar Jackson doesn't have much help besides Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely, and Zay Flowers, obviously, but it could be worse. It could be worse. You could be thrown to worse targets. Yeah, I just feel like the Ravens might take a little bit of a step back, but are definitely still in the running for top of the division. The Browns. Uh, the Browns are an interesting situation. This is, I feel like, a make or break year for Deshaun Watson. If he doesn't prove himself now, if he doesn't even have a better season, he doesn't have to have the 2020 season he had, but if he doesn't have a better season than he's been having, and if he doesn't stay healthy, I personally feel like the Browns, it's time to just move on, whether that's through the draft or through free agency. We'll see what happens there. Uh, but realistically, I see them missing the playoffs. That defense is amazing, and the coaching staff there, again, top, definitely top of the league. But I don't know, man. It's just not there. Uh, the offense, I will say, if Deshaun Watson cannot get it done with Amari Cooper, David Njoku, uh, I believe Isaiah Moore's on that team now. They added a couple of wide receiver pieces that are sneaky good. If he cannot get it done with the receiving core that he has now, I don't think he ever will. Which leads me on to the Bengals, who uh realistically are going to be contending for the AFC if they can keep Burrow likely. The window is now. They need to win now. They need to make the Super Bowl now. But yeah, no, I feel pretty good about the Bengals, honestly, compared to where they were last year. Again, it's similar with Joe Burrow dealing with injuries. As long as he can stay healthy on that offensive line, as long as they just protect uh Joe, I think they'll be fine. But Jamar Chase currently in a contract standoff similar to Ayuk. I think they're speeding up contract talks just so he can be ready for the first game. It's probably gonna get done in between me editing this and publishing it. So yeah, that's pretty good. The Steelers, ooh, from I don't know, man. I feel like the Steelers are gonna have a really down year compared to what they're normally. I feel like this might be the first time Tomlin finishes under 500. Though I still think they'll be a sneaky good team. It's just not going to be there between the battle between Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, and Russ being named the starter. I I think Russ could be good, but more than likely we're never going to see the old Russ that we used to, and he's really going to be a corpse of what he used to be. Plus, he only has who does he have to throw to? He has George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth. The defense, of course, is going to carry them through games, especially through the AFC North. But realistically, they're going to finish below 500 this year. So I have the division going the Ravens, Bengals, Browns, and the Steelers. Ravens probably 12 and 5, 11 and 6. Bengals 11 and 6. Browns 9 and 8, and Steelers probably 7 and 10. Maybe even 6 and 11 if it really goes downhill with their quarterbacks. Another interesting division is the AFC South. There's a lot of wild cards here, but starting off with the reigning champs, the Texans. Obviously, I hope that CJ Stroud is what he was last year, but I feel like everybody has a sophomore slump, and it's it's all right if he doesn't do as well as he did last year. A lot of people, especially in the media, have them finishing like I think number one or number two in the conference. But with all those many weapons, and plus the curse of Stephon Diggs, I doubt that we'll see them make a Super Bowl push this year. Definitely, they might be my pick next year, but I just feel like there's a couple more teams in the AFC that are just more battle tested than they are at this point. Though I feel like if CJ Stroud comes out and is just like on fire, I don't think any team can really stop them. Then you have the Colts, who are another very interesting situation. You don't know what you have in the quarterback, Anthony Richardson. The rest of the team's pretty good. You have Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, Jonathan Taylor, as always. Offensive line is still pretty good. Not compared to what it used to be, but I think it's still up there. If this is really the year that we're gonna tell, as long as Anthony Richardson stays healthy and that defense just plays decent, we'll be able to tell who the Colts are. Many people, I have them most likely missing the playoffs, but I wouldn't be overly surprised if they made it in as a wild card, of course. It really just lands on Anthony Richardson at this point, and their coaching's there, so we just gotta hope that he does above expectations at this point. The Jaguars, I feel like this is really a sleeper team. Uh, Doug Peterson is an amazing coach, and obviously as a Eagles fan, I'm slightly biased about that. But uh, yeah, Doug Peterson is an amazing head coach, and Trevor Lawrence. This is really maker. There's a lot of make or break year situations for quarterbacks this year. Trevor Lawrence is another one. Yeah, realistically, I see this team missing the playoffs, but if everything goes right, I feel like this team is going to be more competitive than most people realize. So that's I feel like they're going to do better than what the media and the average person think. And then we have the Titans. Hmm. The Titans, obviously, Will Levis, sophomore year. I feel like this is Will Levis's year. If there's going to be a year that Will Levis exceeds expectations, it's this year. They got Calvin Ridley. They lost Derrick Henry. The defense is still really a shell of itself, and looking at it, I mean, players are getting fights with media during training camp. It's a little bit of a mess. I do believe in the coaching. It's gonna take like a year or two, I feel like, to really see the vision that I believe it's Brian Callahan is the head coach. I think it's gonna be really a 2 year thing until we really see what this team is gonna be like under this coaching staff. Will Levis, if there's gonna be a year, it's gonna be this year. Obviously, with new receivers, obviously D Hop and now Calvin Ridley. Tony Pollard is actually a pretty good uh, receiving back, and then Tajay Spears as well, backing him up. But For this division, I realistically see the Texans winning quite easily, maybe around 12-5, maybe 11-6. Colts probably finishing 10-7. Jaguars 7-10, and Titans probably 6-11 realistically. And then we have the AFC West. Let's go. The reigning Super Bowl champs, Chiefs. Really, is there anything to really talk about them? As long as their players stop getting arrested and stop doing dumb stuff. They have a young receiving core that could eventually prove itself, but right now, my favorite receiver on that team, besides Hollywood Brown, was it's most likely going to be Xavier Worthy. I see that pick actually being really good for them down the line, 2-3 years from now. He showed flashes, especially during the Detroit Chiefs preseason game. Patrick Mahomes is just going to really do his thing, and so is Travis Kelce. It's unfortunate to say, but I realistically see this team finishing at the top of the conference again. But I feel like the division might be a little bit better. Next we have the Chargers, new head coach in I believe John Hardball. Uh, yeah, I believe in this coaching staff, and if he can get the most out of Justin Herbert, it will be the best situation. Obviously, Hardball played quarterback in the NFL for a couple of years, and then obviously was the head coach of the 49ers and led them to the Super Bowl. There's going to be a head coach to turn around this franchise. It's going to be the John Harbaugh. I see them. They're always competitive with the Chiefs, so I see them actually splitting the series with the Chiefs this year. As long as Justin Herbert stays healthy and that defense shapes up as it normally does. So Khalil Mack has been doing pretty good. I expected him to hit a wall a couple of years ago, but no. And of course, you have Derwin James, the headliner of that defense, with the other Bosa, Joey Bosa, coming off the edge. Again, I can see this team making the playoffs, probably a wild card spot. That brings us to the Raiders. I feel good about that coaching choice that they made. It's going to take a while, and you're going to have to surround him with good coordinators. But I don't know, man. The Raiders are interesting. They had a QB battle between Minshew and Aiden O'Connell, but with Minshew coming out on top, obviously, I feel like if they don't make a playoff push this year, we can see Devontae Adams going somewhere else next year, during whether that's through a trade, through free agency. Uh, they're kind of bland. It's more of a wait and see whether Antonio Pierce was the right hire at head coach for me. But I see them missing the playoffs. And then we come up on the team I think is going to finish last in the entire NFL, which is the Denver Broncos. Okay. The Broncos are a shell of a roster of what they used to be. Sean Payton, I feel like, isn't going to work out in the long haul, and that trade is probably going to come back and bite them in the ass. Uh, yeah, there's nothing really too great to say. Bo Nix, I hope does well. I do hope Bo Nix does well, and that's their guy. But realistically, if you're going to throw a rookie quarterback, uh, that's this like unproven so far, that's this raw behind that kind of offensive line, you're asking for problems. You probably should have started Stidham for a couple of games and then put Bo in, but I pray that Bo survives this season and learns from it. So in this division, I have the Chiefs finishing with a record of probably 13-4, Chargers most likely 10-7, Raiders 8-9, and Broncos are most likely going to go 3-14. Next up, we have the NFC West. I figure we're going to start on the same side of the country and work our way back. We have the 49ers. Obviously, just got done with the Brandon Ayuk drama, but now still dealing with Trent Williams. Let's hope that Brock Purdy's blind side can get solved the end of the uh, by the end of the off season and into the regular season. But yeah, I don't. I feel like this. If there's going to be a year that the 49ers take a step back, it's going to be this year with multiple other competitive teams like the Lions, Eagles, Cowboys, uh, and Packers. I realistically see them taking a little bit of a step back, but they're still going to win the division pretty well. They might have a little bit of a challenge from the Rams, but other than that, I see them doing pretty well. Uh, the Rams, another interesting situation. They have a good tandem running back duo. They also have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua. They obviously lost Aaron Donald in the offseason, so they have to reload. I believe they reloaded with Jared Verse coming off edge. I think he's going to do very well, especially in the scheme that they have over there. Uh, Again, I feel like they're going to win games, and I see them making the playoffs again. But it's really just how long Matthew Stafford has left in the tank, especially. Sean McVay is definitely going to carry them to a few wins through his coaching. They're going to be competitive, especially with the 49ers this year, but I don't see them winning the division. Maybe a high wild card spot, but definitely not winning this year. And then we have the Seahawks. Just got a new head coach in McDonald. I actually really like this hiring because, especially when the Seahawks won their Super Bowl, uh, they were more defensive oriented with a very good show on offense. But yeah, I really like this hire. I feel like this is a really sneaky hire. Uh, if Gino, this is a make or break year for Gino. If he does not show that he is the guy, if he cannot lead this team to the playoffs, then I feel like it's time to move on and maybe find maybe search for the guy, whether that's through free agency or the draft this offseason. Obviously, you have returning DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, and JSN. They're always going to have probably one of, if not the best, wide receiver cores in the NFL. With Kenneth Walker running the ball, I feel like they need to run the ball more than they did last year, and then open up the play action game a little bit more. Maybe get DK open if they can. As long as that offensive line can hold, and Will McDonald starts to mold the defense into a winning defense similar to what they had at Baltimore this past year, then I can easily see this team making the playoffs. But they have to do that. If they don't do that, I feel like they're going to be another middle of the road team that's competitive in most games. But against the big dogs like the Lions, the 49ers, the Packers, the Eagles, I don't really see them putting up too much of a fight compared to what they did back in 2022. The Cardinals. I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on the Cardinals. I particularly like the Cardinals, especially after they beat my Birds last year. Uh, Kyler, I feel like Kyler's the guy. I don't think this is a make or break year for him. They already paid him. I feel like next year might be, but next year is a whole different can of worms. They have James Conner behind that line. They have Marvin Harrison Jr. Obviously, I'm really excited to see him and what he's going to be able to do against NFL defenses. My only real question is how are they going to rebuild this defense? Like they haven't had anybody that great since Watt, but Buda Baker's getting up there. Maybe they could trade him in the offseason, maybe get some capital back. But they need to reload on this defense before they make any sort of moves uh, pertaining to making the playoffs. So in this division, I see the 49ers winning probably around 11, like 11 games this year, with the Rams following up behind probably either 11 as well or 10. The Seahawks most likely being around the 9 to 8 win range, and the Cardinals being around the 7 and 6 win range. This takes me to the NFC South. Oh boy, it's going to be another probably pretty bad year for the NFC South. Uh, the Buccaneers re-signed Baker Mayfield. I think this was a good decision, though Baker Mayfield works best when he doesn't have expectations, but I could definitely see them making headaches for NFL defenses all over the place. Their defense is still pretty good. They re-signed Antoine Winfield Jr. So again, I think they're going to be a really competitive team. I feel like what holds them back is their coaching, but we're just going to have to wait and see on this team whether they're the same team they were last year or a different one. I like to say every year is a new, every season. Every season is a new season, so you're going to see a different team every year. But as long as the Buccaneers can hold on to their identity, I think they're going to do good. Uh, Mike Evans is going to continue to go off. Chris Godwin as well. Uh, Rashad White, I feel like, is going to have a great season this year. So I hope the Bucks do have a good season, and I most likely see them coming in the top two of the division. I'll let you know in a couple seconds here who is going to win the division. Next we have the Falcons again after firing. I believe it was Arthur, their head coach. Now they brought in the new head coach, who I'm blanking on his name. Give me 1 second. Raheem Morris, that's right. He's from the Rams, and I feel like he's going to bring some of that hard-nosed identity over to this defense. The offense is what I'm more interested about. They have a lot of weapons. They obviously have Kyle Pitts. They have Drake London. They have Bijan Robinson. Now they have Kirk Cousins, who is proven to be a very elite quarterback in this league, at least in the regular season. When it comes to the playoffs, that's a different animal. But as long as Kirk can distribute the balls to all his receivers, I feel like they're gonna do good. And Raheem Morris is definitely gonna have this defense locking down teams. They're definitely gonna be more. They're definitely gonna be more uh, competitive than they were last year, but they could definitely win this division. But it's definitely gonna be a tight battle between them and the Buccaneers. Compared to the battle for last place in this division, starting with the Saints, Derek Carr has not been looking good in the preseason. He looked amazing ending the season there, but they missed the playoffs. I don't know, man. This is definitely a team that I feel like needs to rebuild and probably starting now. If they don't, I feel like they're going to be behind the eight ball a little bit. But I mean, you got Tyrann Mathieu who has been completely forgotten in the NFL. I feel like I hear nobody talk about him anymore. You have Cam Jordan coming off the edge, who's definitely getting up there, and you also have Alvin Kamara, who's definitely past his prime at this point. You have your only bright spot is Chris Olave, and that's really it. Uh, Again, I see this team is probably going to be one of the worst in the NFL, in my opinion, compared to the next one, which is the Panthers, who actually see taking a step forward. Um, Under new head coach Canals, I can definitely see Bryce Young taking a step forward because there's less uh, expectations on him at this point. Uh, it's just still a really bad team, unfortunately. But uh, yeah, as long as Bryce Young takes a step forward, I see this season probably as a success for the Panthers. But there's definitely going to be one of the bottom feeders of the league. But there are worse things to be for the Panthers right now. So I see the Falcons most likely winning this division with a record of 10-7, with the Bucks going 9-8, the Panthers going 6-11, and the Saints going 4-13. It's not going to be a great year again for this NFC South. There's not much promise, but we're going to see how this shakes out, especially in the future. Next up, you have the NFC North, uh, with the reigning champs, the Lions. Again, I feel like they're going to be one of the better teams in the NFL this year. Again, now there's expectations, though. Now they have to live up to the hype that they've now created. Uh, Aiden Hutchinson, I feel like, is definitely going to be in Defensive Player of the Year talks this year. Uh, Jared Goff, as long as he stays the same, I think they're going to do fine. Amon-Ra St. Brown could definitely have a huge breakout year. Uh, Jahmyr Gibbs, I feel like, is going to be in Offensive Player of the Year talks. So we're going to see how this really shakes out. They're definitely going to be one of the top teams in the league, but it's going to be a tricky division this year, especially going up against the Packers, who are another really young and talented team that really came out of nowhere. I was not expecting the Packers to do as well as they did last year, but Jordan Love kind of proved himself on the back half of the season. And with a young and talented wide receiver group that really aren't like superstars. So Jordan Love can really spread out the ball. And now they have Josh Jacobs, who, as long as he returns the form with the Packers, I think they're going to be a really solid team. Their defense is overall very good. Obviously, Jair Alexander is the headliner for that act. But yeah, again, this Packers team is going to be really competitive, and it's really going to come down to the wire, I think, with the Lions and Packers this season. The Vikings, unfortunately, the quarterback I thought was going to be starting at the start of this year, J.J. McCarthy, went down with a meniscus tear. That's really unfortunate. He's going to be out for the season. So you're stuck with Sam Darnold, that your starting quarterback. Uh, that's not great. If you want me to be honest, that's not great. He should have just been in for maybe one or two games or no games at all. But he does have weapons like Justin Jefferson, and I'm not sure if Jordan Addison is getting suspended or not. I don't think so. I haven't seen anything about that. But he does have weapons. They have Aaron Jones now, so they can run the ball. The defense under Brian Flores definitely took a step forward last season. As long as he can continue to build on that, I feel like they're going to be good. But concerningly, they have a lot of aging vets on that defensive side of the ball. So eventually, they're going to have to start reloading that defensive side through the draft or through free agency. Uh, yeah. So the Vikings again are going to be another bad team. I don't think they're going to be as bad as everybody thinks, but it's not going to be great over there. But the Bears, on the other hand, are going to have a probably better than average season, which is weird to say with the Bears. They've been pretty bad ever since the double doink, but I feel like this might be their year. Just take a step forward. Realistically, they surrounded Caleb Williams with the right weapons compared to Justin Fields. Yeah, that keeps making me scratch my head why they completely abandoned their quarterback there. But yeah, Caleb Williams looks like the guy on Hard Knocks, which I've been watching during the off season. He's definitely a character. I don't mind that though. I feel like as long as as people keep creating controversy and reasons to not like him, he's going to perform better. So, word to the wise, if you want the Bears to suck, don't trash talk Caleb Williams. They added Keenan Allen for him to throw to. They re signed DJ Moore. Uh, they have DeAndre Swift in the backfield along with Khalil Herbert. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a really good year. Oh, and plus Roma Dunze. I keep forgetting that they have him. Yeah, no, yeah, I feel like this pass catching group is again one of the top in the NFL. It's weird that the NFC has a lot of those, but yeah, uh, the Bears. I think this is gonna be a better year than average. I don't think they're gonna make the playoffs this year, unlike many people who weirdly have them making the playoffs. But I think they're just gonna miss it. But it's gonna they're going to be competitive and they're going to make it hard on some of the top teams. So realistically, I have the Lions finishing with the 11-6 record, with the Packers right behind them at probably an 11-6 or a 10-7. And then finally, you have the Bears and then the Vikings. Bears probably around 8-9, maybe 7-10 at the lowest. But the Vikings, I feel like, are going to be 5-12, maybe 6-11. It's not going to be a good year, Vikings fans. I'm really sorry. I hate that happened to JJ McCarthy. But you got to hope for the future, I guess. Which brings us to our last division, the NFC East. Let's start with the reigning champs, the Dallas Cowboys. Uh, huh. This is going to be an interesting season with the contract extensions and re-ups looming over the entire season, especially on the coaching side with Mike McCarthy, the quarterback side with Dak Prescott, and with Micah Parsons on the defensive side. They already have, I believe, Deron Bland is out for like 4 to 6 weeks, so that's not a great start to your season. They did re-sign CeeDee Lamb, which is smart. They're gonna have to keep him around, especially if they have to find a new quarterback, whether that's through the draft or not. If they can't get Dak re-signed, but again, it's gonna be a weird year for them. I obviously they're always gonna be competitive in games, but I don't see them doing as well as they did last year. They're gonna be obviously top two in this division, uh, because they play the Giants and the Commanders twice, which are basically just four easy wins there. But honestly, I don't see them winning. And let's get to the people I do see winning. The Philadelphia Eagles. Okay, I hate to be biased because I like to be an honest Eagles fan. Last year during the back half slide of 1 to 5 win rate. I was really upset, and I sort of lost my head a little bit. But this offseason, this front office targeted the specific uh, positions that we needed: linebacker, running back, shoring up the defensive edge with Bryce Huff. Uh, Yeah, I feel like we did a good job addressing what we needed to. Now it's just to put it out there on offense. We have two new coordinators, so realistically, I could see us struggling a little bit in the beginning, which is going to make people doubtful. But I do see the Eagles being a really competitive team and causing problems for a lot of teams in the NFL this year. The Giants. Wow. All right. Uh, Losing Saquon to the Eagles was not a good start for you guys, but yeah, there's not much to say besides Malik Neighbors looks like the guy. Whether he's catching balls from Daniel Jones for the next 4 years or not, that's up for debate. Danny Dimes has to prove himself this year, and besides Dexter Lawrence and Burns on the defensive side of the ball, there's really nobody of note. I really like Dable, but I'm not sure there's enough pieces for him to put stuff together there in New York. but you can really hope, I guess. It's going to come down to Daniel Jones, whether he's able to get the balls to his receivers and whether or not he gets injured again this season. Uh, it's really going to come down to quarterback for the Giants, and I don't see them really. I don't see Danny Dimes stepping up to the task. Then finally, we have the Washington Commanders. Again, number 2 overall pick. They took Jaden Daniels. I think he's going to be good. I don't think he's going to be as immediately good as everybody thinks. He looked good in the preseason, but he was also going against second stringers, so uh, I wouldn't get way overhyped about Jaden Daniels. Again, I prefer if a rookie quarterback would sit behind a vet, but it's Marcus Mariota, so you kind of have to start Jaden Daniels. I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to be really competitive. Uh, I think they're going to be able to string some wins along, but realistically, I don't see them making the playoffs at all. Yeah, they just have to prove it this year. Being better than the second overall pick is a start to proving that you're a better team. So with the NFC East, I have the Eagles ending up being 12-5 or 11-6. The Cowboys being 11-6 or 10-7. The Commanders coming in third, either being 8-9 or 7-10, and the Giants coming in last place, most likely being 5-12 or 4-13. All right. The awards for I'm going to go over quickly for the end of year awards and my Super Bowl prediction. I see Caleb Williams winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. I see most likely Jared Verse winning Defensive Rookie of the Year this year. I see Comeback Player of the Year obviously being Aaron Rodgers. Defensive Player of the Year being Aiden Hutchinson. Offensive Player of the Year most likely being Tyreek. Side note, I think Tyreek probably breaks the 2,000-yard record this season. It's not going to be by much, but it's going to be by a little bit, and that's what's going to push him over the edge for that Offensive Player of the Year. Coach of the Year, maybe Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn could definitely win this year, especially if he takes that franchise from the bottom, or Matt Eberflus. It's going to come down to those two, I feel like. And the MVP, I could definitely see Patty Mahomes winning it again, but give me Joe Burrow winning the MVP this year, bringing home, I believe, his first one in his career, which is a little bit weird. All right, and to end this week's episode of Flying with the Flock, I will be predicting this week's games. So to start off with the NFL kickoff this Thursday night, we have the Ravens at the Chiefs. Uh, I feel like Patty Mahomes carves up this defense and does prove that there are some worries on this defensive side of the ball. Obviously, week one for any of these games does not tell how any of these team seasons are going to go. But I feel like the Chiefs win at home against competitive Ravens, but it's going to be fireworks, folks. I think it's going to be almost all offense here. Uh, yeah, Chiefs win most likely 28-24. Again, another great game. You have the Eagles and Packers. But obviously, it's in Brazil, so it's really not a home match for either team. So, putting that aside, I do see my Birds winning this. Again, it's going to be another offensive minded game, but I see my Birds winning 35-24 this week in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Starting off with our matchups on Sunday, see the Steelers upsetting the Falcons. I feel like this is going to give Steelers fans false hope this season. But I do see that defense stepping up where the offense lacks. And we might see Russ get into a little bit of a rhythm here, but I wouldn't get your hopes up with too much. Falcons are going to drop this one, but I can see them picking it up later down the line. So give me the Steelers over the Falcons. We have the Cardinals and the Bills. Uh, Definitely give me the Bills, even though it's probably not going to be as great as it seems. Uh, Give me the Bills probably winning 24-17. The Cardinals are definitely going to give them more of a problem than people give them credit for. Then we have Bears Titans. I think it's going to be closer than what most people think. Uh, but I think the Bears are definitely gonna, with their more offensive weapons, are definitely gonna be able to hit this Titans secondary, which really only has L'Jarius Sneed of note. Unless the Titans can get pressure on Caleb Williams uh, and Will Levis plays out of his mind, I really don't see them winning this matchup. But that doesn't really mean much. I see them definitely competing later down the line. I feel like the Bears are going to win 24-14. Bengals Patriots. I don't really want to talk about this game too long. I see the Bengals showing that they're definitely going to be a force to be reckoned with throughout the season. Uh, Give me the Bengals 28-10. We have the Texans Colts. I feel like this is probably going to be a blowout. The Texans are probably going to start out the season hot, and I feel like the Colts are just going to make it back up later in the season when they face them later. Uh, Give me Texans 28-13. Next up, we have the Jaguars and Dolphins. Similar to the last one, I feel like this is going to be more of a blowout. Give me the Dolphins 35-10, and the Dolphins, as they normally do, start off their season hot. Jaguars are probably going to win more in the back half of the season compared to now. So we're just going to see how that all plays out. We have Saints Panthers. Give me the Panthers to upset the Saints here. Going into New Orleans to play the Saints. Yeah, give me the Panthers. I feel like Bryce Young. This is definitely going to be a game that defines him as a player. He's definitely going to do really good. Uh, as long as he can just get away from the pressure of Cam Jordan and Chase Young, I feel like he can definitely deliver, get his ball to his targets, get it to Deontay Johnson and Xavier Legette. Uh, yeah, give me the Panthers on this one. I feel like it's going to be more of a shootout though, so give it to me 31-28. Oh boy, this is going to be an interesting one. Minnesota Vikings versus the Giants. You know what? Give me the. I feel like Dable probably has the Vikings number, so give me the Giants. It's going to be another close one. I think both teams are going to play pretty poorly, so give me 17-14 Giants. Yeah, it's not going to be a fun season for either of these teams. Chargers Raiders. Get. I feel like these teams might split, but right now, give me the Chargers. Uh, the Chargers probably 28-17. I feel like the Raiders will prove to be a force to be reckoned with, and this will definitely be the start, but I see the Chargers pulling away with this one. Next up, we have I would like to say the battle of Russell Wilson, but he's not with either of these two teams anymore. We have the Broncos and Seahawks. I feel like the Seahawks are the better team here and the better coach team too. I'm not that high on Sean Payton, so I feel like this might be a close to a blowout. Give me the Seahawks 24-7. Another really interesting game. We got the Browns and Cowboys. The Cowboys are going into Cleveland, so that will definitely, I feel like, play a factor here. Uh, I feel like this defense might have its way with Dallas's offense. With all the questions with contract stuff, I feel like this will definitely cloud some of the Cowboys' vision. So give me the Browns to win it 23-17. We have the Commanders and Bucks. Give me the Bucks easy. This defense, I feel like, will definitely give problems for Jaden Daniels, and I feel like we won't really see the real Jaden Daniels till later in the season anyway. Uh, yeah, give me the Bucks. Most, they are going up a well-coached defense. Give me the Bucks 21-17. I feel like this is going to be closer than most people think, and probably more than I think. The Lions Rams. Give me the Rams. I think I like the Rams in this one. I feel like Matthew Stafford, this is his revenge game. He gave Detroit their one playoff win, or, well, the playoff win. So give me the Rams, most likely 28-20. And we got the Monday night showdown, Jets versus 49ers. Again, this was probably going to be a really good game. There's a lot of good games this week. But give me the 49ers. Obviously, they're at home, so that's going to play a major factor. Though I think we will see Rodgers back up and running as long as they can keep him protected from the pass rush. I feel like they're going to do fine, but this is just a really hard game for them this week. 49ers, I feel like, are going to show out and just put away any of this offseason drama that they've been having. So give me the 49ers 35-21. All right, so that is it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully this becomes a weekly thing. I will most likely be uploading uh, before Thursday night. So I will catch you on the next one. Please let me know if you have any more ideas, and please like and subscribe to catch next week's episode. Goodbye.